the sales rep for Barry Callebaut chocolate. We are the largest chocolate manufacturer from bean to finished chocolate in the world. It's based out of two major companies that we purchased 15 or 20 years ago. Barry, which is a French company, and Callebaut, which is the Belgian company. So you have Barry Callebaut. And then we've acquired some other companies. We acquired Van Leer, and the Van Leer name you'll see on a few items that we still sell, and a few other companies around the world. So we have 5 or 6 factories between Canada and Mexico and the U.S. that produce for North America. Today I'm going to be showing you primarily the Belgium chocolate we're going to work with this time. We've worked with various different chocolates before, Van Leer, the compound coatings, combination of different things, but today I'm going to strictly be working with the Belgium chocolate. Just a little brief background on the chocolates that we're going to be using. Belgium chocolate's been around a little over 100 years. Callebaut, the brand Callebaut, which is the major brand in Belgium. You go there, Callebaut is everywhere. The two products we're going to use are the two standards. The number 811 on this side is a dark. That's a 58.8%. I'm sorry, 53.8% chocolate in that one. And then the 823, which is a standard milk, which is 33.6. Now, a question that came up but a while ago, the difference between regular chocolate and what we would call couverture chocolate. And this is the easiest way to remember. In the U.S., the standard is for cocoa butter in chocolate, minimum of 28%. All right? So, who would you think would be 28%? Hershey's. Anything between 28 and about 31% is kind of basic chocolate. When you get into the couverture chocolates, you're getting into the 32 plus cocoa butters, right? That's where you get that real creamy, smooth taste in your mouth. That's from the cocoa butter. When you get a drier taste in your mouth, that's because there's more solids, less cocoa butter. So when you eat, shall we say, the less expensive chocolates, or the American chocolates, in a lot of cases, not a lot of cocoa butter. That also goes for the dark. Dark, we use a lot of cocoa butter. The Belgians are very noted for the very smooth tasting chocolate, smooth mouthfeel. So I'm going to be working in this machine right here with the milk chocolate today. So we're going to be doing a lot of different things with milk chocolate, particular centers, and I'm going to make a dark chocolate center in a little while. And then we're going to make some shells. We're going to do some truffle balls, just a little bit of different things. What I like to do in the beginning is to show some of the utensils that I use. Most of the utensils here you can pick up at any restaurant supply store, Home Depot, for your scrapers, although these are getting almost as expensive as the commercial tools you can buy. Dipping forks, these are professional type dipping forks. You can see that they're steel, very thin. Plastic ones tend to be thick, a little more difficult to work with. These also have a tapered point to them, which allows you, when you put your piece down, to slide off very nicely without making a gloppy tail. Thermometers, digital's the best. The analog, the one that goes around like a clock, they're kind of difficult to read and usually small. Digitals are pretty accurate. Assortment of small knives are always good to trim with. Of course, scissors, spoons. The cups I do use, measuring cups. A lot of the recipes you get are in metric. I like this Sharp calculator that I found years ago. It converts to metric without doing one of those scientific calculators with the 55 buttons on. You can't figure out how just to convert to metric. It's very easy. 2 arrows to metric, back to ounces and pounds. The other thing that we forget about when we're working with chocolate a lot of times is the temperature and the humidity. most important. Right now, it is a little warm in here. It's 74 in here with a 26 humidity still. A little bit warm, but we're okay. Humidity is great. Matter of fact, there's been a lot of static the last couple of days, right? This gauge does both, temperature and humidity. So when you get the humidity up to 80 degrees, 80% humidity, you can't work with chocolate. Even a professional stop. I mean, you just can't do it. So it's important to know a lot of times what the humidity is. I mean, when you get to that point, usually you feel it, all right? Little timers help you sometimes when you're doing some things. My absolute favorite tool is the infrared thermometer. This thing, you're going to see me use this constantly today, constantly. This baby will give you the surface temperature, but if you agitate whatever I'm doing, whether it be a chocolate or a center or whatever, you'll get a pretty accurate reading within a degree or two, and that's close enough to know what the temperatures are. And I'll do things like, what's the temperature of my utensils? 7 degrees, a little bit cool. What's the temperature of the chocolate mold? Also important. This is reading 68.3. A little cold to dump chocolate in. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we do the mold report. All right, but very valuable tool. You can even buy them at Home Depot now. They're like 50 to 80 bucks. I've had this one for about at least 10 years, maybe longer. And then the assorted spatulas, straight. Offset's really good because when you start working with trays that are deep like this, you can't spread anything even. You need offset. So it's a very inexpensive tool. Regular rubber spatulas for mixing, of course. Scrapers of various sizes. The little bigger one. Moving down to the electronic stuff, hair dryer. You can use a heat gun, but they get pretty hot. Hair dryer, just enough heat to handle everything I'm going to do. So when I say the mold is too cold, I'm going to hit this with the hair dryer before I get the chocolate in here. If my utensil's too cold, I'm going to warm it up a little bit, right? Even though it's a little bit cool, you know, it's not real cool in here. Yesterday it was cooler. Sun's out today. If you do a ganache, you can use an immersion blender. Works really well, right? For bigger batches, I like the Cuisinart. This is a commercial Cuisinart, basically, called a Robocoupe. All the restaurants use this to make their mayonnaises and chop stuff up with. A really super product, and one of the recipes I'm going to do is a quick ganache. Some of you ladies have seen me do this before. We're going to do it again. Fan. A small portable fan is a must when you start cooling your product. Because what happens when I take the chocolate out? You need to cool it. There's a certain time, you're going to hear me mention this often, time and temperature. A certain amount of time to do something at a certain temperature. You can't rush it, but you also don't want to delay it either. So there's just a few basic things that I'm going to show that will help you get a better result of the product that you're going to run with. All right? So leave anything out. Oh, this is a semi-commercial tempering machine. It holds 10 pounds of chocolate. I got about, I'd say about 5 pounds in there right now. It's plenty to work with. This is pretty idiot-proof. It's got all the gauges or the digital readout here with temperatures on there, and it even gives you instructions. Tells you when it needs to add the seed, when it's in temper. Push the temper button. You want milk, you want dark. You can raise and lower the temperatures that you desire temperature. This one happens to be set for milk at 86, too low for me. We have too much cocoa butter in the Belgian chocolate. I like to run it at about 88.5, which is a little over 31 Celsius, which is about where you need to be to handle the cocoa butter. If you don't have enough heat, it doesn't handle the cocoa butter very well. So it's all set. This also has a deal where I can stop the motion of the bowl, which is nice, particularly for me. I'm left-handed. The bowl goes the opposite way, and you're always fighting that, pushing against. So this is a nice little attachment. This is about $3 grand for this thing. So now you're starting to step up into something that, you know, is quality. All right. Now the real good ones, the crystallization machines, now you're talking 18 grand. That's for more of a real good high-end chocolatier that uses that. So Questions. Fire the questions at me as we go. If I talk too fast, slow me down. I'm from New Jersey, so you know it's just. But I love questions. If I can't answer, we're going to find out. We'll get back to you on that. All right. Now I'm going to. Oh, my next new toy. This is an induction cooker. Works on magnetic heat. You need a stainless steel pot to work this thing. It's great because this does not gets warm, but it doesn't get hot. Pan gets hot, right? And without this, if you put an aluminum pan on there, the thing won't even turn on. It just shuts itself down. It's smarter than we are. It just doesn't work. So this is really cool for me, particularly when I do demos and stuff. This is great because now I can actually do some cooking now rather than using the microwave. All right. The other thing is the refrigerator. I already cooked up. We're going to do a what I call a liquid caramel. I already cooked that up, so it's pre-done. I did one yesterday, and it's very difficult because you got to keep stirring and watching. Refrigerators are good, but here's the thing with refrigeration. This is stagnant air in here, right? So the longer you leave it in here, you have difficulty with open pieces. Closed molds are okay, but open pieces will tend to be a little bit dull if you leave them in refrigeration too long. You can get smaller fans, and I have in the past in the refrigerator taken the fan and stuck it inside the refrigerator to move that air. That also helps. Air movement is real important. Right. Of course, the microwave, you can do a lot of things in the microwave. We'll get into a little bit of that later. All right? Now, I'm going to start with some...
Bruce.
Yes.
You said you put the fan, a little fan, in the refrigerator. Yeah. So then you can't close the door very well.
Sure you can. Just close it right on the cord. Won't hurt anything. Remember your
so
door.
You'll still get it closed.
Remember your door has a little magnetic strip here, so it bends. All refrigerators do it today.
So you leave
it'll
that
go right
on the whole time you have the chocolate in there then?
Pardon me?
You leave the fan on the whole time you have the
Absolutely.
chocolate?
Yeah. It circulates the air. Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm confused as to why that's bad. Like, why the stagnant air?
Stagnant air is because you want to remove the heat from whatever you're doing, particularly molds. Because remember, when you I'm putting 88-degree chocolate in here, and to shrink the chocolate, which is what we're going to do to get it out of the mold, you have to remove the heat, right? So air movement is helping blow that heat off. If it's stagnant, then it cools in different ways, in different portions of the mold, and you don't get a good release a lot of times, and it takes also longer, right? So you get more air out here just in the normal movement of the room air. This is stagnant air in here. Once you close that door, there's no air movement. It doesn't have a fan in this thing like a commercial type cooler would have a circulating fan in there. That's what you want. So you're going to see the steps that I do by using this in combination with this to get my best results. All right.
So it won't release out of the mold as well because it's been in the fridge, or?
Well, it will. Two things happen in the fridge, stagnant air. One is it doesn't cool properly. The other thing is if you leave it in too long, then you wind up with condensation when you take it out, which is going to form on the top of this bar. The bottom, the top of the bar, which is covered with the chocolate, will be fine. That because there's no air touching here, right? Well, so the only heat that's coming off is going to be away from the plastic. It's the top that gets messed up. You've seen chocolates that are like real cloudy on the top.
Yeah.
A couple things do that, and as I do it, I will explain what the do's and don'ts are on that, on making the product look good. But if I'm doing clusters, now everything's exposed, and I leave it in here too long and bring it out in the air, as soon as I bring it out and that gets too cold, the condensation in the room is going to go right to the chocolate. And you may not see it right away, but a couple hours later or tomorrow you say, oh, it's awful dull looking. What happened to it? This is what happened. You're never going to get a shine as good as in a mold when you do hand-dipped pieces. But there is some things that help you get a better shine. And remember too that just because I take this out of the refrigerator and I demold this thing, the thing is still cooling. It's still shrinking. So tomorrow, it's going to be firmer and harder tomorrow, and the day after that's going to be harder, and the day after that's going to be harder. So it doesn't happen just because it fell out of the mold, or you did your clusters or whatever you did, and you say, oh, I can touch them now. But all of a sudden you say, oh, I touched it, but it's a little sticky. What did I do wrong? You just touched it too soon. Right? A couple days later, it's fine. Same with a molded piece. All right? Now, where is my little sample? I'm going to pass this around. I need an assistant in the front row, and usually it's that seat right there. This is a piece of molded chocolate that's not fully in temper. Now I want you to look at the broken piece. You can touch it, and you're going to see that there's a lot of holes in it, aeration in there. That's because when you temper chocolate, a couple things happen. First of all, you have to heat it up to 108 degrees. Then you're cooling it down. As you cool it down, you have to seed the chocolate. And what do I mean by seeding? The chocolate is looking for what we call a beta 5 crystal. That's the key one that links the chocolate together in good crystal form and makes it nice and firm and hard, right? So what happens is you melt the chocolate. The chocolate starts cooling, so the particles are all separated. The fats and the solids, and they're not too happy, but they're looking for each other, and they start clinging together, which is good. This is what you want, right? So they cling together, and they keep getting closer and closer together as it cools. Now it reaches 90 degrees on the dark, 88 on the milk, and they stop. It's exactly what you want. So you've got some air space there, some space between. You can't see it, it's microscopic, but they have space between them. This is good, right? Now, if I interrupt this and they just barely touch, it's kind of like what you're looking at. I got too much airspace in there. You can actually see it now. It's not tight. The tighter the chocolate is, the tighter the snap is on the chocolate, the better the temper is. Right? So the crystallization has been completed. So now what we're going to do is, before we get to the molding, I think, and I did this earlier, I'm going to do some hand tempering. We're going to let's do the dark, because I have more dark. Let's do the dark. All right, I'm tearing off on my scale, my digital scale here. Now I want to temper 2 pounds of chocolate. Now, come on. Close enough. 2 pounds of chocolate. Now we sell these bags like this. This is a commercial bag. This is a 10 kg bag, 22 pounds. 2 of them to a case. Now, we also sell it in block form. You'll see that. There's a handout over here, actually it's attached to your clipboard, of everything that they stock in the warehouse, right, that they sell. It's stock items. Some you can buy here. Some you have to go across the street to the warehouse to buy. Some are in smaller quantities than others. You know, in other words, not full cases. Now, 2 pounds of chocolate. But let's say I'm just going to work with. I'm going to do some molding, and maybe I'm only going to mold 1 pound of chocolate or half a pound of chocolate. I still want to temper 2 to 3 times more chocolate than I'm going to use. And there's a reason for that. The more chocolate you use, the easier it is to work with, especially in a bowl. You try to get the exact amount to do it, you're going to ruin probably 20% of it easy, maybe more, trying to get that last bit out of there. All chocolate's reusable. So once you temper with this and you take out a pound of this and there's 2 pounds in there, you just save it. You heat it up later and you re-temper it, right?